What's been the life of the film since?
It got selected for Edinburgh Film Festival, so it premiered there in June. It's been at Encounters, it's been at LA Shorts, it's been at Brest International Film Festival. We've just been told we didn't get into Sundance. We're waiting to hear about Clermont-Ferrand. I'm thinking that we haven't heard, so we probably haven't. 1.0 in London also screened it in their festival, which was last month, and Into Film in Berlin. So it's had a pretty good festival life. I've got another little batch of submissions to do today, sometime soon. And we hope to get another kind of 4 or 5 months out of it. It has got distribution, and actually, and we haven't actually done the deal yet, but amazingly, it's got a sale. Canal Plus emailed me a couple of weeks ago and said they'd like to buy it, and that's real money. It's real money. It's I think I can't say how much, but it's like meaningful money. And Stink have agreed that that will go to the filmmakers, in other words, to the producers and the two directors.
You get paid.
So I might I might actually get paid, you know, maybe like 800 or 900 quid for my 18 months' work, and I'm not going to do the sums on that because that is too scary. And we've had some interest from Canada. Somebody wants to represent it in Canada, and 1.0 acting as sales agent for it. So yeah, you can make little bits and pieces back. I think, and it's not a business.
But did it help you get the iFeature?
No. Shall I talk about the iFeatures now? Shall we move on to that? How does everybody know basically what iFeatures is, or shall I do a quick summary? iFeatures was the brainchild of Chris Moll, who's an executive producer. He'd run a similar scheme up in Liverpool called Digital Departures as part of the Year of Culture in 2008. One of those films was Off Time in the City, the Terence Davies film, which has been the most visible. Another film called Kicks, and another called Salvage. And because Chris is a Bristol-based guy and he'd gone to Liverpool and been commuting backwards and forwards to Liverpool for 2 years, thought this is ridiculous, I must do this in Bristol. So he set the scheme up in collaboration with South West Screen, BBC Films and Bristol City Council. And the premise was to make 3 films which had to be set in Bristol and had to speak of Bristol in some way. They couldn't just be any old script with Newcastle scrubbed out and Bristol crayoned in. You know, it had to, in some sense, come out of what Bristol is. And City Council, very enlightened, wanted to basically have films which put Bristol on the map in some way, made people in the wider world aware of what Bristol is. And also, I hear they had a little bit of an underspend in a particular budget, and they had this pot of money they had to get rid of. It was a one-off investment, and they put it into this scheme. The scheme launched October last year, but I kind of got wind of it. The word was out much earlier than that, I'd say January, February 2009. So I kind of knew this was sort of what I'd been waiting for, really. This was a big opportunity for me. So between March 2009 and the deadline, which eventually came in December 2009, I kind of burrowed away quietly, trying to make connections with writers, with directors, developing stories. The deadline, the scheme launched in October 2009. The deadline was December. And what you had to put in was a 4-page story outline, which basically said, this is what this film is, this is the story roughly, this is how we see it, this is what we think the audience is. And you had to have a team. You had to have a writer, director, producer. Now, they were a bit flexible about that. It could be a team of 2, 3 or 4 people. So you could have a writer-director. You could have 2 writers. One of the other successful projects has 2 writers. One was a novelist and one was a screenwriter, and they co-wrote. So yeah, but you had to have a team. They had 550 submissions, and they shortlisted, or they long listed down to 80 kind of real contenders. From that long list, they went down to 26, and they interviewed 26. And the interview was probably the scariest thing I've done in my life. There was a big, long table. It was a kind of a room with a sort of, I say, long table, and I think about 10 or 12 people behind that desk, and then a little desk, the three of us doing our presentation. It was quite scary. From there, they chose 12, and those 12 productions were given £2,500 and a script editor, and sort of support and training. And within 6 weeks, we had to produce a fully fleshed treatment, so a 15-page story treatment. They then culled again down to 6. We had to go to another panel and be interviewed again. We had to sort of show a mood board, you know, various materials, ideas for casting and so on. And we got culled down to our group of the last 6. They gave £10,000 to each of the 6 of us to write a full script. And we had to hit certain deadlines for certain drafts, and the final deadline was end of June 2010. Again, we got panelled, and then they went away, and they came back, and they greenlit one. They greenlit a film called The Dark Half, which is now already shot. They redlit one, which is a sci-fi film, because they didn't think it was achievable on the money. And then they amberlit 3 of us. I beg your pardon, they greenlit 2. They greenlit another film called The Bristol Job. Greenlit 2, redlit 1, and amberlit 3, including ours. And they said, we really like you, we want to keep you in the mix, but go away and do more work. We think the 3rd act isn't working. And they were right, the 3rd act wasn't working, it was a mess. So we went away and we did more work. And we delivered a new script in August, and then it went incredibly quiet for a month. And what had happened, I found out later, was that the funding started to fall to pieces, because the Film Council started to say, well, actually, we like that one, but we don't like that one anymore. And so, for instance, they didn't like our project at all. They just didn't get it, thought the script was too TV. They hadn't looked at the director's showreel, so they didn't know what the director was going to do with it. But they decided they only wanted to fund one. So the whole financing package fell to pieces, and they were short of finance. So Chris Moll went out to find some commercial money, and what he came back with is actually a brilliant coup. I mean, hats off to him. He got money from a company called Matador Pictures, who are commercial financiers, and they got a sales agent on board for all 3 films, a content filmer representing the films internationally. And the Matador money was contingent on having a sales agent on board. So all that was going on while we sat in silence and waited and waited and waited. And we finally heard, I think, end of October. I think that's right. No, end of September. So we had to wait 6 weeks to hear. And in the end, they ungreenlit The Bristol Job, which is quite, they had lost their director. After they got greenlit, they sort of fell out with their director. I'm not sure whether he jumped or whether he was pushed, I just don't know. But basically, they parted company, and they didn't actually get a credible director on board in time. And so iFeatures people lost confidence in the production, which was good for us because it meant that there was only one greenlit production and there were 2 slots. And so basically we got greenlit and a film called 8 Minutes Idle, which was a comedy set in a call centre in Bristol, which was the one with the 2 writers based on a novel. So now here we are, we're fully funded, we have £300,000 with which to make this film. That's the production budget. The full budget is 345. The 45 is basically financing costs. So that's lawyers' fees, audit fees, a production fee for Matador, the bits and pieces like that. But I get £300,000 to spend. So here we are, and what I'm doing now is basically crewing up, getting locations sorted, and casting. And those are the big ones. And we plan to go into pre-production in mid-January and shoot sort of the month of March, basically 28th of February for 4 weeks. It's going to be a 4-week shoot, 25-day shoot. It's very, very tight. Are people interested in this? Yeah? Okay. one of the things with going very, very low budget was that nobody's getting paid what they should get paid. Nobody. And so what we decided to do, and all 3 films have done this, is you have to pay people the same across the board, because you know that by lunchtime on the first day's shoot, everybody will know what everybody else is getting. And if the makeup knows that the gaffer's getting, it's a nightmare. So you have to pay the same. So we've done 3 tiers. We've done an HOD tier, we've done a middle tier, and we've done a kind of runner tier. And all the HODs will get 600 quid a week. The next tier down, which will include people like the makeup and design assistants, the art director, the gaffer, the grip, they'll get 500 a week. And the runners get 350 a week, which is minimum wage. So we had to start from minimum wage and then basically make enough of a kind of differential between the 2 grades. So that's what we've done. At the moment, we're trying to do post-production deals, and we don't really have enough money to get what we need. So the other great thing about the iFeature scheme is the points, the back end. And this is, for me, has been really, really fascinating. I've learned so much about financing in the last year and about money. And iFeatures has this not unique, but unusual thing that the producer's corridor is based on gross. So what that means is the sales agent goes out and they make a sale to, let's say they make a sale to America. And let's say that sale is £100,000 or something. They will take their expenses off the top. They will take their fee off the top, and their fee varies from place to place, but for the US it's 12.5%. The collection agency will take their 1%, so these slices come off the top. But basically what remains is split 70-30 between the financiers and between the producer, me, basically. And that 30% I can use in any way I like. So I can give some to the writer, some to the director, some to myself, that'd be nice. And I can do post-production deals. So I can say to a post-production company, okay, well, you want 50,000, I've got 30. I will give you 3 points worth of back end. And if the film does well, that's meaningful money. That's, that's in the thousands, that's not in the hundreds. And they know that they're getting their money at the same time as Matador Films gets a check, they get their check. And I think that's a kind of key selling point in being able to persuade people on board. The HODs will get a tiny percentage, all the HODs will get a little something. And it's just by way of saying you have ownership of this film, you've got an investment in this film. And that's been a really important kind of psychological bonus of the way the scheme's been set up. And Matador, to their credit, as a commercial financier, sort of bought into that. I don't suppose they liked it, but they did. They did actually buy into it and honoured that. So that's been a very useful bit of leverage when trying to get deals and things like that.